Detachment is not the absence of desire. It is the ability to command desire without being enslaved by it. Those who cling, those who beg, those who worship the approval of others, these are already defeated, for their value is determined by the whims of strangers. The detached one does not need to chase, for presence itself becomes gravity. People are drawn not to desperation, but to the quiet force of one who cannot be bent. The first level of power is survival. Here, man obeys his hunger, his fear, his instincts. He bends his knee to circumstance and calls it necessity. At this level, he is not a ruler but a captive of his own flesh. Most never escape this cage. They trade their freedom for safety, their dignity for scraps of comfort. Power, for them, is a foreign language. The second level of power is dependence. The man rises from survival but clings to others for direction, validation, or strength. He is bound by loyalty that is not chosen but imposed. He serves masters, leaders, crowds, lovers, anyone who can offer him certainty. He believes himself free because he is useful, yet his usefulness is his chain. Those who remain here confuse servitude with virtue, mistaking obedience for morality. The third level of power is influence. The man discovers manipulation, persuasion, and the theater of appearances. He learns that men are guided less by truth than by image, less by substance than by spectacle. Here he becomes charming, adaptable, and dangerous. He may rise high, but he is still fragile, for influence rests on the shifting tides of perception. Those who wield it too recklessly are consumed by their own performance, forgotten as soon as the illusion fades. The fourth level of power is control. The man no longer dances for approval. He pulls the strings. He understands the machinery of institutions, the cold levers of command. Here he chooses fear over love, order over chaos, necessity over sentiment. He rewards loyalty sparingly, punishes betrayal swiftly, and never reveals his full hand. Yet even at this height, he is chained not by men, but by fate itself. Control requires constant vigilance, and the throne is never without its daggers. The fifth level of power is detachment. At this summit, the man transcends both need and fear. He plays the game, yet the game cannot claim him. He commands without attachment, withdraws without loss, loves without dependency, and rules without illusion. Detachment makes him untouchable, because nothing can be taken from him that he has not already released. This is why detachment makes one irresistible, because the world bends toward those who do not beg for it. The question remains, which level are you in? Survival, dependence, influence, control, or detachment? Most will never climb, many will fall back. But those who reach the final level do not conquer others alone, they conquer themselves. And in that conquest lies the only form of power that cannot be stolen, betrayed, or destroyed. Detachment is not indifference, it is clarity. When the fog of longing is lifted, one sees men for what they are calculating, restless, driven not by loyalty but by opportunity. To master detachment is to strip the world of its disguises. You no longer mistake flattery for friendship, nor passion for permanence. You begin to sense the hidden motives behind every gesture, every word, every alliance. And because you are no longer entangled in their illusions, you stand above them, free to act with precision. Power decays in the hands of those who need too much. The lover who cannot let go is devoured by obsession. The ruler who craves applause becomes hostage to the crowd. The commander who fears abandonment breeds mutiny. Attachment is weakness disguised as devotion. It makes one predictable, and what is predictable can be controlled. Detachment, on the other hand, makes you a storm impossible to seize, impossible to bind. Those around you are unsettled by it, yet they cannot resist it. The irresistible man is not the one who boasts, nor the one who pleads, but the one who could walk away and lose nothing. In that silence, in that refusal to cling, lies a gravity that others cannot escape. It is why enemies hesitate, why rivals grow cautious, why lovers cannot look away. They sense the imbalance. You need nothing from them, yet they need everything from you. Each level of power reveals the chains of the previous one. To rise, you must abandon what once defined you. The beggar must abandon his hunger. The servant must abandon his dependence. The deceiver must abandon his illusions. The ruler must abandon his throne. Only then does one arrive at detachment, where nothing owns you, and for that reason, everything comes to you. This is why the highest power is not to command armies, nor to bend nations, but to govern the self with such calm authority that the world bends in recognition. Those who cannot detach remain prisoners even if they sit on thrones. Those who can detach are sovereign even if they walk alone. Detachment is the art of refusing to be consumed by what you possess or by what you desire. Most men are owned by their appetites, believing they are in command, while in truth they are being led by invisible reins. The merchant chases wealth until wealth enslaves him. The general seeks victory until victory blinds him. The lover clings until love becomes a noose. Detachment severs these cords without abandoning the pursuit itself. You may still seek wealth, still command armies, still love deeply, but you do so without surrendering your freedom to them. The crowd admires strength but serves weakness. They are drawn to those who do not beg, who do not cling, who walk away with steady steps when others tremble. This is why rulers who appear unshaken inspire loyalty even among the faithless. The masses cannot resist the presence of one who seems untouched by loss or fear, for he embodies what they cannot achieve within themselves. His detachment becomes their anchor, even if they secretly resent his calm. To live at the higher levels of power is to endure solitude. Influence attracts company, but detachment commands distance. Many will approach you, yet few will ever touch your core. You will be admired, envied, whispered about but rarely understood. The price of being untouchable is the absence of equals. The detached ruler carries this loneliness like armor, for he knows companionship built on need is nothing but a velvet chain. It is in silence that the detached one finds his advantage. Where others scramble to explain, to justify, to reassure, he withholds. That stillness unsettles more than 1,000 words. In the theater of appearances, the man who speaks least holds the greatest power, for his silence allows others to reveal themselves. Their eagerness betrays them. Their impatience exposes their hunger. Meanwhile, the detached one watches, measures, and strikes only when necessity demands. Detachment is not the death of ambition, but its purification. It removes the excess weight of vanity, the noise of approval, the distractions of temporary victories. What remains is focus sharp, unyielding, and merciless. The man who reaches this summit does not fight every battle. He selects only those that secure his survival and extend his influence. He is not swayed by insult, nor enticed by flattery, nor broken by betrayal. His gaze remains fixed on the architecture of power itself, while others drown in the shifting tides of emotion. Those who cannot detach remain slaves to the moment. They flare with rage when insulted, they collapse when abandoned, they rejoice too loudly when fortune smiles. In each case, they surrender themselves to forces beyond their control, revealing that they are ruled rather than ruling. To master detachment is to refuse this servitude. It is to become the still point around which others revolve, the fixed star in a sky of wandering lights. The detached one bends not to the season, but makes the season bend to him. At the core of detachment lies the mastery of time. Most act from impulse, chasing immediacy, grasping at shadows. The detached ruler sees further. He measures years where others see days. He withholds action until the moment is ripe, and when he moves, it seems inevitable, as though fate itself obeys his will. What appears as patience is in truth domination of the unseen rhythm that governs men and nations. Those who cannot wait remain chained to urgency. Those who can wait command history. Fear is the thread that binds men together, and detachment severs its grip. The servant fears dismissal, the soldier fears death, the ruler fears rebellion, the lover fears abandonment. Fear makes men predictable, and predictability is the end of power. The detached one acknowledges fear, but does not kneel before it. He does not deny danger, but he refuses to be moved by it. In this refusal lies his allure, for men admire most what they themselves cannot defeat within. Betrayal, too, loses its teeth before detachment. He who clings to loyalty as though it were eternal will be shattered when it breaks. But the detached one expects the fracture. and so it wounds him little. He uses loyalty when it serves him, discards it when it no longer does, and remains untouched by the bitterness of broken trust. In this, he reflects the true nature of power. It is not eternal, it is not pure, it is not safe. It is shifting, unstable, and merciless, and only those who detach from illusions can ride its currents without drowning. The irresistible force of detachment comes from its paradox. By needing nothing, one gains everything. Men chase approval, wealth, and security, and in doing so they forfeit the very authority they seek. But the detached one, in renouncing need, becomes the source of value. Others offer him what he does not ask for, surrender what he does not demand, follow where he does not summon. It is not charm, nor luck, nor magic. It is the simple truth that he cannot be possessed, and so all wish to possess him. Detachment transforms conflict into advantage. Where the attached man rushes to defend every insult, every threat, every slight, the detached one chooses carefully. He does not fight because his pride is wounded. He fights only when necessity demands. And when he does, his strikes are cold, deliberate, and final. His enemies are undone not by his fury, but by his composure. They exhaust themselves in noise and passion while he conserves his strength, waiting for the single decisive blow. In war, as in politics, the greatest victories belong not to the one who rages, but to the one who restrains. The theater of power is littered with actors who mistake performance for rule. They adorn themselves with symbols, promises, and gestures meant to dazzle the crowd. But these masks are fragile, and the audience grows restless. The detached ruler wears no mask he cannot discard. He plays the role required, yet never forgets that the stage is temporary and the applause fleeting. When others are consumed by their own image, he slips behind the curtain and pulls the strings. To him, appearances are weapons, not prisons. Ambition without detachment is fire. Without a hearth, it burns quickly, destroys recklessly, and dies without leaving warmth. Ambition tempered by detachment becomes a forge, shaping destiny with discipline. The detached one does not chase every opportunity. He lets many pass untouched. This restraint confuses rivals, for they cannot grasp that ignoring a prize may be the very act that secures a greater one. To him, power is not measured by how much he holds at once, but by how little he needs to hold to remain in command. Even love, the most intoxicating of attachments, becomes a battlefield where detachment reveals its supremacy. To love with need is to hand your soul into another's keeping. To love with detachment is to give fully without surrendering yourself. It is to embrace passion without being consumed by it, to walk away unbroken if the bond is severed. Such love is feared, for it cannot be owned. It makes the one who practices it magnetic, for nothing is more alluring than freedom wrapped in desire. The highest form of rule is not over men, but over oneself. When you can stand amidst chaos without being shaken, when betrayal does not unmake you, when fortune cannot intoxicate you nor ruin dishearten you, then you are beyond reach. At this height, enemies lose their weapons, allies lose their leverage, and even fate itself appears less tyrannical. Detachment does not make one invulnerable, but it renders every wound survivable. It transforms suffering into insight, loss into liberation, solitude into sovereignty. And in this transformation lies the essence of irresistible power. Detachment is the ultimate currency, rarer than gold, more enduring than armies, and more feared than authority itself. For the man who cannot be bribed, seduced, or frightened is the most dangerous man alive. He is unpredictable not because he is reckless, but because he refuses to be bound by the leashes others accept willingly. When a ruler reaches this state, negotiations tilt in his favor before a single word is spoken. His adversaries sense it the imbalance of need. One side clings to outcomes, the other does not, and power always belongs to the side that can walk away unscathed. The world thrives on entanglements. Contracts, vows, debts, alliances, promises, each one a chain disguised as honor. Men bind themselves in pursuit of security, and in so doing surrender their leverage. The detached man enters agreements, but never with both hands tied. He leaves a door open, an escape route hidden, a silence unspoken. His commitments appear solid, yet beneath them lies the quiet flexibility to turn, retreat, or sever when necessity demands. In this way, he remains master of circumstance rather than victim of it. Consider ambition. Without detachment, it devours. It pushes men to overreach, to extend their grasp beyond what they can hold, to drown themselves in victories that become their undoing. History is littered with rulers who conquered too much, too fast, and collapsed under the weight of their own conquests. But ambition, refined through detachment, is measured. It expands with calculation, retreats with wisdom, and endures where reckless power disintegrates. The detached ruler builds not an empire of stone, but an empire of time, one that outlasts rivals who confuse expansion with permanence. What unsettles others most is not cruelty but calm. A rival who rages can be predicted. A rival who smiles in silence cannot. Detachment gives birth to this composure. When men hurl accusations, when enemies plot in the shadows, when allies falter, the detached one does not rush to answer. His stillness becomes unbearable to his foes, who expose themselves in their impatience. What he withholds is more powerful than what they declare. His absence of reaction becomes a weapon sharper than any blade. And yet, detachment is not retreat from life, but dominion over it. The detached man still acts, still loves, still builds, still fights, but he does so as one who cannot be broken by any single loss. He drinks from the cup of fortune without thirst. He holds the reins of command without clinging to the saddle. He lives in the world, but the world does not live in him. This is why detachment makes one irresistible, because he is both present and untouchable, both engaged and unbound, both within reach and beyond grasp. Observe the man who governs a company yet cannot detach from the praise of shareholders. At the first hint of disapproval, he bends his strategy to please them, sacrificing long-term strength for temporary applause. His authority erodes because he reveals that his compass is not his own. Contrast this with the leader who listens but does not depend, who absorbs criticism without being redirected by it. Investors sense the difference. They may not always agree with him, but they follow him because he does not chase their shifting moods. Detachment transforms leadership from a performance into command. Consider the lover who sends endless messages, desperate for a reply, convinced that silence is rejection. His attachment corrodes his worth, for each act of desperation confirms his dependence. Compare him to the one who waits, who lets silence linger without fear, who does not collapse in the absence of attention. It is this composure that creates tension, curiosity, desire. The less he demands, the more is offered to him. Detachment here is not cruelty, but a demonstration of abundance within himself. Look to politics. A candidate who clings to every opinion poll becomes a puppet of numbers, twisting his message until it loses coherence. He wins applause in fragments, but loses the respect of the whole. Another candidate, rooted in detachment, speaks not to please but to shape. His detachment from approval grants him authenticity, and authenticity breeds followers who would rather walk through fire than watch him bow. The masses do not always love the detached leader, but they believe him, and belief outweighs affection. In war, too, detachment separates victory from ruin. The general who panics at the loss of a single battle throws his forces into reckless retaliation, only to fall deeper into defeat. But the detached commander accepts loss without despair, adjusts his position, and waits for the terrain to shift. By refusing to be broken by immediate setbacks, he preserves strength for the decisive strike. His men trust him not because he promises constant triumph, but because his calm in the face of disaster convinces them that defeat is never final. Even betrayal offers lessons. The man attached to loyalty grieves endlessly when a friend turns foe, wasting energy on bitterness. The detached man recognizes betrayal as a law of human nature. He does not waste his strength lamenting it. He folds it into his calculation. Betrayers become tools, enemies become maps, and broken alliances become opportunities for new ones. His detachment ensures that betrayal cannot poison him, it only sharpens his awareness. Detachment is the constant thread in all these examples, whether in the marketplace, in love, in politics, in war, or in friendship. It is the silent discipline that turns chaos into advantage, loss into strategy, and rejection into influence. Those who embody it rise, not because fortune favors them, but because nothing fortune does can truly undo them. Detachment is not the abandonment of ambition, but its refinement into something unassailable. It cuts away the noise that distracts rulers from the architecture of true power. When stripped of attachment, the mind becomes a blade, lean, sharp, and disciplined. It does not scatter itself across fleeting desires or petty contests. It pierces straight through to necessity. This is why those who reach this summit appear cold to others, not because they lack feeling, but because they have learned to separate impulse from strategy. At its core, detachment is the conquest of illusion. Every man is surrounded by appearances, praise that flatters, threats that terrify, hopes that seduce. Those who remain bound to these appearances are like prisoners watching shadows on the wall, mistaking them for reality. The detached one turns his gaze away from shadows and studies the light itself. He does not confuse appearance with essence, nor mistake the passing mood of the crowd for the enduring structure of power. His vision is not clouded by what seems urgent, for he is focused only on what is decisive. This level of command produces a silence that unsettles the world. While others clamor to justify, to persuade, to defend, the detached ruler withholds. He understands that words, once released, cannot be recalled, while silence can expand infinitely. He allows his stillness to provoke questions, doubts, and confessions in others. The less he reveals, the more others reveal to him. The more he withholds, the greater the weight when he finally chooses to speak. Silence becomes a force greater than rhetoric, a power that bends men without touch. Detachment is also the mastery of pace. It teaches when to accelerate, when to delay, when to retreat. The impatient fall into traps laid by their own haste. The detached one measures rhythm like a musician, striking not the most frequent note, but the most decisive. In this control of timing lies his sovereignty, for he bends the flow of events to his design rather than letting events dictate to him. History belongs to those who move last with precision, not those who move first with desperation. Ultimately, detachment is not distance from life, but supremacy within it. It is to stand in the center of storms without being carried away, to enter alliances without being bound, to wield fear without being consumed by it, to rule without being ruled in return. This is why detachment sits at the highest level of power. It is the final refinement of command, where nothing external dictates the course of the inner sovereign. In that state, one does not merely hold power, one becomes indistinguishable from it. Detachment reshapes the very texture of perception. When freed from the weight of clinging, you no longer see events as threats or promises, but as movements within a larger order. Fortune ceases to appear as a blessing or a curse. It is understood as a shifting current to be navigated. Praise no longer intoxicates, nor does insult corrode. Each occurrence is simply a signal, stripped of the distortions that ensnare lesser minds. Such clarity grants the detached one an advantage that no weapon or alliance can rival: the ability to perceive reality without ornament, and thus act with accuracy. In this state, desire does not vanish, but becomes subordinate. Hunger, fear, love, and ambition remain present, but they are disciplined, shaped, and arranged into servants rather than masters. The detached man does not extinguish fire. He confines it within a furnace where it produces strength instead of destruction. He does not pretend to be beyond human impulses, but he holds them in a grip so firm that they are unable to dictate his course. This is why he appears unearthly to others, because he does not stumble where they collapse, does not burn where they are consumed. Detachment also alters the relationship to risk. Where others calculate endlessly to avoid danger, the detached one accepts that risk is the permanent condition of existence. He enters it willingly, knowing that to demand absolute security is to renounce power altogether. Yet, unlike the reckless, he does not hurl himself blindly into peril. His detachment from outcome allows him to act with precision, unburdened by the terror of failure. To him, risk is not an enemy to be feared, but a field to be traversed. He walks across it steadily, while others tremble at the edge. At the highest level, Detachment ceases to be a tactic and becomes a form of sovereignty. It no longer concerns merely how one deals with rivals, allies, or fortune, but how one exists. It is a state where identity is no longer entangled with possessions, positions, or praise. The detached one carries his power within, and thus cannot be dispossessed. Even when stripped of throne or wealth, his authority remains intact, for it is rooted in self-command. Such a man, even in exile, is greater than many kings seated upon their fragile thrones. This is the quiet terror of detachment. It reveals to the world that power is not truly in crowns or armies, but in the invisible mastery of the self. And once this truth is seen, no illusion can conceal it again. Those who reach this state are few, but they are remembered as forces, not men as if they had stepped outside the chain of necessity and returned as its master. Detachment is the liberation from the tyranny of reaction. Most men live as mirrors, reflecting whatever strikes them. Insult sparks rage, praise swells pride, threat awakens fear. In this way, they are puppets, pulled by invisible strings, mistaking reflex for will. The detached one severs those strings. He feels the same impulses, but they do not dictate him. He observes them, measures them, and decides if they serve his purpose. His restraint is mistaken for coldness, yet it is nothing more than sovereignty over himself. This sovereignty breeds a presence that others cannot explain. It unsettles the ambitious, because they sense a rival who cannot be baited. It frustrates the manipulative because their traps find no hole. It silences the masses because they feel the gravity of someone who does not clamor for their approval. Presence becomes power not because it is loud, but because it cannot be moved. The detached one stands like a fortress, and even without striking a blow, his mere steadiness weakens the will of those around him. Detachment also transforms the relationship with time. The attached man lives only in immediacy. He must win now, be seen now, be satisfied now. His impatience leads him into snares he cannot escape. The detached man moves through time differently. He can endure long winters without despair, can allow opportunities to ripen, can wait for rivals to decay by their own mistakes. His patience is not passive. It is active calculation stretched across years. In this mastery of duration, he bends history itself to his design. In politics, in war, in love, the detached man carries the same advantage. He does not confuse necessity with desire. Others act because they wish, because they hope, because they fear. He acts only when the structure of reality demands it. His steps are fewer, but each is decisive. And when he moves, it seems inevitable, as though the course of events had been written for him alone. Fortune favors him not because she is generous, but because he has learned to meet her without clinging. At its highest refinement, detachment is indistinguishable from freedom. It is not escape from responsibility, nor withdrawal from ambition, but the unshakable center from which all responsibility and ambition can be commanded. Few achieve it, for it requires abandoning illusions cherished by the many. Yet those who do attain it rise above both triumph and ruin, beyond both praise and blame. They remain when others collapse, endure when others break, and command when others beg. In this endurance lies the proof. Detachment is not retreat from power, it is its purest form. Detachment sharpens cruelty into necessity and softens mercy into calculation. It does not abolish either tool, it simply dictates their timing. The detached ruler does not punish to satisfy anger, nor does he pardon to display kindness. He punishes only when fear must be preserved, and he pardons only when loyalty must be secured. In this way, both cruelty and mercy lose their moral disguise and are restored to their true role as instruments of command. The attached ruler confuses his feelings with policy and is undone by both. The detached one reduces feeling to function and survives. It also dismantles the illusion of permanence. Thrones, treaties, alliances, armies, all of them shift like sand. The attached ruler clings to them, terrified of their decay, and spends his strength in futile attempts to stop time. The detached ruler accepts decay as natural and uses it as leverage. He knows that every bond will weaken, every structure will crack, every loyalty will fray. Rather than resist this truth, He accelerates it in his enemies and manages it in his allies. His power rests not on illusions of stability, but on mastery of instability. Detachment further reveals the anatomy of appearances. Men do not love truth, they love what consoles them. They do not obey strength, they obey the image of strength. The detached ruler sees this and governs through semblance without being deceived by it himself. He cultivates symbols, gestures, and myths with precision, but never forgets that they are masks, not flesh. His rivals exhaust themselves living inside their disguises, while he changes masks as one changes weapons. His freedom lies in his refusal to believe his own theater. Above all, detachment disciplines fortune. Fortune governs men who are ruled by passion, by need, by fear. But she finds no purchase in the detached ruler, for he neither despairs in her cruelty nor dissolves in her favor. He treats her as an adversary to be studied, anticipated, and restrained. When she offers advantage, he accepts it without dependence. When she withdraws, he adjusts without collapse. Fortune bends most easily to those who expect nothing from her, for they are prepared to take everything. Thus, detachment is not weakness, nor is it withdrawal. It is the highest refinement of rule. It converts every passion into a servant, every illusion into a tool, every loss into a lesson. It makes a man both feared and desired, both trusted and doubted, both present and untouchable. And in that paradox lies the essence of enduring power, to be in the world fully, yet never to be owned by it. Detachment transforms strategy into inevitability. While others react to crises, the detached ruler anticipates them, allowing events to unfold only insofar as they serve his plan. He does not chase opportunity, nor does he fear its absence. He positions himself where the currents of circumstance will carry him forward, and when the moment demands, he moves with precision so complete that it appears ordained. To observers, his success seems effortless. To insiders, it is the product of relentless calculation, untangled from emotion. It also elevates secrecy into a weapon. The attached ruler overshares, believing that transparency breeds trust. The detached ruler understands that every revelation grants power to another. By controlling what is seen and what is hidden, he shapes the perceptions of both allies and enemies. Silence and omission become tools as sharp as any blade. In the theater of power, what is concealed often wields more influence than what is displayed. Detachment teaches the economy of action. Lesser men expend themselves in constant maneuvering, in endless speeches, in perpetual gestures of loyalty or defiance. The detached ruler moves sparingly, each step calculated to produce maximal effect. Energy is preserved, resolve remains unshaken, and the eyes of others constantly search for signs that never come. In this measured restraint, he exerts control over the tempo of events, dictating the rhythm to which all others must conform. It also instills clarity in alliances. The attached man trusts too quickly, fears too readily, and becomes entangled in the ambitions of others. The detached man negotiates from a position of internal sovereignty, offering commitment only when it advances his design and withdrawing without hesitation when it does not. Alliances exist for utility, not comfort. Loyalty is measured by consequence, not sentiment. He neither provokes resentment by clinging, nor weakness by detachment from necessity. Finally, detachment preserves vision. Where others are distracted by fleeting rewards, by applause, by anger, the detached ruler keeps sight of the ultimate objective. He does not stumble into traps of vanity, nor is he diverted by the chaos of men. His focus is a constant, his attention unbroken, his purpose uncompromised. In the calm center of his self-mastery, power becomes both a tool and a state of being, and the world, with all its tumult, bends inevitably toward him. Detachment perfects the use of force. The attached ruler strikes in haste, driven by insult or desire, leaving consequences unchecked. The detached ruler waits, calculating not only the immediate effect, but the long arc of every blow. Each action is precise, each punishment measured, each reward intentional. Power is conserved and multiplied, for he does not expend strength on spectacle, only on necessity. In this Cruelty and generosity are indistinguishable from strategy. They are means, never end. It heightens the perception of opportunity. The detached man sees openings invisible to those entangled in their own urgencies. While others scramble to respond to events as they occur, he observes the flow, noting where resistance is weakest, where alliances can be swayed, where the smallest maneuver produces the greatest advantage. In this quiet mastery of awareness, he preempts rivals, bending circumstances before they have a chance to solidify. Detachment also governs speech. The attached ruler speaks to persuade, to appease, to justify. The detached ruler speaks only when necessary, and when he does, his words carry weight because they are rare, deliberate, and unrehearsed. Silence surrounds him like a shield, and when it breaks, it cuts sharper than any rhetoric. The fewer words spoken, the greater the effect, for men fear what cannot be anticipated or controlled. It creates immunity to deception. Those who are bound by hope or fear are easily misled. The detached man, however, evaluates each statement, each gesture, each promise with skepticism, knowing that human nature is self-interested and fleeting. By expecting betrayal and manipulation, he prepares for it, deflects it, and, when advantageous, turns it to his own gain. The world's duplicity becomes a tool, not a threat, and in this lies a decisive edge over the attached and the reactive. Ultimately, detachment is the consolidation of sovereignty over oneself. It allows a man to act without compromise, to endure without complaint, to command without dependency. In mastering his own attachments, he renders himself untouchable, irresistible, and inevitable. He is no longer a player of circumstance. He becomes the axis around which circumstance moves. And in this mastery, the essence of power reveals itself, to rule not by the whims of others, but by the unassailable dominion of self. Detachment imposes order upon chaos, where the attached ruler perceives only conflict, confusion, and competition. The detached ruler discerns structure, patterns, and leverage. Events, people, and forces are reduced to their functional elements, stripped of sentiment, stripped of distraction. He does not wish for clarity, he creates it, bending circumstance to conform to his vision rather than succumbing to its disorder. In this clarity, his moves are inevitable, his victories preordained by understanding, not luck. It refines judgment. The attached man is swayed by appearances, by the urgencies of the moment, by the applause or derision of the crowd. The detached man evaluates steadily, weighing probability, consequence, and alignment with ultimate aim. Decisions are neither rash nor delayed. They are exact, like the strike of a scalpel rather than the swing of a sword. He knows that hesitation allows rivals to advance, and impulsiveness exposes weakness. Detachment renders him both patient and precise, a master of timing in every endeavor. Detachment also converts fear into authority. Men fear what they cannot predict, what they cannot sway, what they cannot possess. The detached ruler embodies all three. By refusing to display dependence or desire, he becomes a force that commands respect and caution. Subordinates obey, rivals pause, and allies align not because of threat alone, but because they sense the equilibrium he maintains above the fray. His power lies in the unshakable center of his being, and that power radiates outward, bending others to accommodate it. It purifies ambition. Whereas the attached man chases every advantage and every reward, he scatters effort and exposes vulnerability. The detached ruler selects only what advances his enduring design, letting the rest pass without agitation. This selectivity preserves resources, protects reputation, and concentrates strength where it produces absolute effect. Ambition becomes disciplined, targeted, and unassailable, for it is no longer governed by desire, but by calculation. At its summit, detachment becomes inevitability itself. Fortune, men, circumstance, all are instruments in his hands, yet none can bind him. He is not moved by praise or reproach, not seduced by passion, not destabilized by loss. His decisions unfold with the certainty of natural law, and those who oppose him find themselves shaped by his will, often before they realize they are engaged in struggle at all. To reach this state is to become both ruler and arbiter of reality, a sovereign whose dominion is rooted not in force alone, but in the unassailable command of self. The merchant who refuses to panic during a market crash illustrates detachment as leverage. While competitors liquidate assets in fear, he holds his position, observing patterns that only become visible in chaos. By neither clinging to immediate profit nor fearing loss, he converts volatility into opportunity, acquiring influence that others cannot imagine. His restraint transforms risk into advantage, revealing that true wealth is born not from possession but from composure. The general who retreats strategically rather than fighting every skirmish demonstrates detachment as mastery over movement. He sacrifices terrain not from fear, but from calculation, conserving forces for battles that will define campaign. While enemies interpret withdrawal as weakness, he strengthens his position, reshaping perception while preserving strength. Every retreat becomes a trap, every patience-laden maneuver a prelude to decisive action. Detachment allows him to see beyond immediate pride, acting in accordance with enduring victory rather than temporary satisfaction. In diplomacy, the envoy who listens without revealing intent wields detachment as influence. While counterparts reveal motives in pursuit of favor, he gathers information silently, shaping alliances from shadows rather than demand. His restraint forces others to expose themselves, misjudge his intentions, and act in ways that serve his broader design. Through measured silence and observation, detachment converts what appears passive into the most active of tools. Even in matters of reputation, detachment is a weapon. The leader who does not react to scandal, who does not plead for approval, who maintains presence without apology, reshapes the narrative. While critics expend energy trying to destabilize him, he remains untouched. Observers, sensing confidence unshaken by provocation, align themselves subtly, either out of admiration or pragmatism. Detachment turns attack into spectacle, deflection into influence, and scrutiny into leverage. In commerce, warfare, diplomacy, and public perception alike, these examples reveal a consistent truth. Detachment allows one to act from strength while others are constrained by weakness. It is not denial, nor inaction, nor passivity. It is the conscious transformation of circumstance into advantage, the ability to convert every event, loss, betrayal, pressure, into a stepping stone towards supremacy. Those who master it operate beyond ordinary constraints, commanding not through force alone, but through the invisible architecture of restraint and strategic foresight. Detachment shapes the use of alliances into instruments of power rather than bonds of dependence. The attached ruler clings to allies, fearing their withdrawal as though his strength resides in their loyalty. The detached ruler, in contrast, engages alliances with precision and purpose, willing to let them dissolve when they no longer serve his strategy. This flexibility allows him to manipulate networks, redirect influence, and maintain initiative, while others remain ensnared by obligation. In this, he wields relationships as levers, not chains. It governs the management of perception. The attached man fears judgment, and in seeking approval, he becomes predictable. The detached man controls his own image without dependence on praise, shaping appearances only to the degree that they advance his objectives. By refusing to be owned by perception, he forces others into reaction, exposing weaknesses and creating openings. He becomes the axis around which expectation turns, and his enemies move as if in a current they cannot resist. Detachment extends even to desire itself. The attached ruler pursues what he wants with urgency, allowing need to dictate strategy. The detached ruler desires only that which serves his purpose, and when desire does not align with calculation, he discards it. In this way, he transforms longing into leverage, using restraint to command attention, respect, and compliance. His very restraint becomes a source of attraction, for men and women alike are drawn to those who need nothing yet control everything. It also disciplines response to betrayal. The attached ruler reacts with rage, grief, or desperation, exposing his vulnerabilities. The detached ruler anticipates treachery as part of human nature, absorbing it without disturbance and integrating it into future strategy. Betrayal ceases to be a threat and becomes information, a tool, a stepping stone. In this, the detached one is always several moves ahead, for he understands that others act according to impulse, while he acts according to design. Detachment, in these realms, becomes the silent engine of supremacy. It converts weakness into observation, reaction into strategy, and loss into preparation. The detached ruler does not merely survive the turbulence of men and fortune, he orchestrates it. Each moment of uncertainty becomes an opportunity. Each attempt to manipulate him becomes a lesson for his counterplay, and each challenge faced by others strengthens his inevitability. In mastering detachment, he achieves not only influence over men, but authority over circumstance itself. Detachment cultivates the mastery of timing, transforming action into inevitability. The attached man moves at the pace of circumstance, reacting to urgency, misjudging opportunity, and exhausting himself in trivialities. The detached ruler measures moments with precision, striking when conditions align perfectly, delaying when advantage lies in stillness. His movements appear effortless, yet each is the result of deliberate calculation. In this orchestration of tempo, he bends the flow of events to his will, rather than being swept along by them. It sharpens the perception of weakness in others. Those bound by need, vanity, or fear betray themselves in predictable patterns. The detached ruler observes these patterns without judgment, cataloging them for future leverage. Every indiscretion, every misstep, every display of dependence becomes a tool to influence, control, or neutralize. He does not attack impulsively. He waits until the flaw can be exploited with maximal effect. In this patience, he converts observation into domination. Detachment also refines the deployment of reputation as power. Whereas the attached man allows rumor and opinion to dictate his behavior, the detached man manipulates perception subtly, letting admiration, fear, or envy arise organically. His image is not constructed to please, but to unsettle, to provoke recognition of competence without demanding assent. By refusing to chase consent, he forces others to act in ways that reveal their own calculations, making them predictable and malleable. It governs the economy of initiative. The attached ruler attempts too much at once, scattering effort and exposing vulnerabilities. The detached ruler acts selectively, concentrating energy where it will produce irreversible advantage. Every intervention is weighted, every withdrawal purposeful, and each choice accumulates into a coherent strategy that unfolds with inevitability. In this restraint, he multiplies power, conserving force while others dissipate theirs in noise and distraction. Finally, detachment crystallizes sovereignty over circumstance. The detached man does not yield to fortune, to allies, to enemies, or to desire. He remains the axis around which events turn, the measure against which others judge action, the source of influence that cannot be co-opted. His command is rooted not in the transient favor of men, but in the unassailable discipline of self-rule. In this mastery lies the ultimate authority, to act freely, decisively, and irrevocably within a world that is otherwise unpredictable and unrelenting. Detachment transforms the use of resources into instruments of strategy rather than tokens of possession. The attached ruler hoards wealth, armies, and influence, fearing scarcity and allowing it to dictate his decisions. The detached ruler, by contrast, deploys resources with foresight and economy, using them when their effect will be decisive and withdrawing them when they no longer serve. In this way, abundance becomes a tool, scarcity becomes leverage, and every asset is a weapon in a long game that extends beyond the perception of others. It cultivates resilience against manipulation. The attached man is swayed by flattery, intimidated by threats, or unsettled by dissent. The detached man, immune to these pressures, responds only to what aligns with his strategic objectives. He perceives attempts at influence for what they are: signals to be read, not chains to be worn. By refusing to be pulled by the desires and fears of others, he preserves clarity of judgment and retains control over the tempo of engagement. Detachment refines the deployment of authority, while the attached ruler asserts power reflexively, often in response to perceived disrespect or challenge. The detached ruler exercises authority with precision. Every decree, every command, every intervention is measured against consequence and effect. Authority is no longer a demonstration of ego, but a calculated projection of capability, a force that compels compliance because it is rational, inevitable, and impartial. It clarifies the hierarchy of value. The attached man confuses popularity, admiration, and fleeting loyalty with true power. The detached man evaluates men and resources based on utility, reliability, and alignment with enduring objectives. Friendships, alliances, and partnerships are maintained not for comfort or affirmation, but for strategic advantage. Detachment allows him to shed illusions, to discard what is irrelevant, and to concentrate fully on what determines long-term dominance. Ultimately, detachment converts perception into leverage, patience into inevitability, and observation into foresight. It allows a man to act not as one buffeted by circumstance, but as one who shapes circumstance itself. His presence commands attention, his decisions dictate consequence, and his restraint multiplies influence. In detachment, power becomes not a matter of opposition or struggle, but the natural outcome of clarity, control, and unassailable self-mastery. Detachment is the culmination of all mastery. It is the point at which a man rules not because he commands armies, owns wealth, or wins loyalty, but because he commands himself. Every movement, every decision, every reaction is measured against the architecture of long-term advantage, uncorrupted by fear, desire, or vanity. He sees the patterns that elude others, perceives the motives that remain hidden, and acts with precision that renders opposition irrelevant. In detachment, the chaos of men and fortune becomes a canvas upon which he paints inevitability. At this level, influence is absolute not through coercion, but through presence. The detached man does not need to beg, plead, or perform. His stillness becomes a force, his calm a warning, his restraint a magnet. Those who attempt to manipulate him reveal themselves. Those who oppose him falter, and those who follow do so of their own volition, sensing the order and certainty that emanate from his self-command. Desire, fear, loyalty, betrayal, all are tools he wields, never masters. He is untouchable because he depends on nothing that can be taken. Detachment grants clarity in every engagement. Where others see crisis, he sees opportunity. Where others flinch, he moves decisively. Where others are consumed by ego or passion, he acts with the patience of inevitability. Fortune's whims no longer terrify him, and human caprice no longer constrains him. He anticipates, he observes, he directs, and when he strikes, it is with the calm finality of one who has waited for the perfect alignment of all forces. In love, in war, in politics, in commerce, this detachment produces the same effect. It renders the man irresistible, formidable, and unbound. He is feared without cruelty, desired without indulgence, obeyed without command. Men measure themselves against him and fail because they cannot grasp the source of his strength. It is neither wealth nor army, neither charm nor rhetoric. It is mastery over himself, the ability to move freely where others stumble, to endure where others break, to act where others are paralyzed. Thus, the highest level of power is not conquest over others, but sovereignty over the self. To achieve it is to stand amid the flux of men and fortune unshaken, to act with certainty in a world of chaos, to be both present and untouchable. Detachment makes a man irresistible not by what he possesses, but by what he has relinquished: the need, the fear, the dependence that binds ordinary men. In this relinquishment, he attains not merely power, but inevitability. He becomes the axis around which circumstance turns, the measure by which men and events are weighed, and the master of all that is within his reach and beyond. In detachment, he is complete, and in completeness, he is sovereign.